Let me ask you something. You're making good money, maybe even great money. You're not underwater and you're not desperate. And yet, you're here watching a video about moving to Reno, Nevada. And at some point while you're laying awake around 11 p.m. and your spouse thinks you're asleep, I have to ask, what exactly is going on with your spreadsheet? Because in my experience, people who are struggling are not laying awake running the math on what it looks like to go from Sacramento to Reno. People who are doing fine are actually running those numbers. I think I know why. So stick around. This video is going to be well worth it. And before we go any further, I want to be straight with you about one thing. This is not going to be that video where it talks about Reno being a paradise while Sacramento is a dumpster fire. I'll let you form your own opinions on whether Sacramento's a dumpster fire or not. You see, I moved from California myself. My wife Cindy and I have made that exact decision and ran all the same numbers also. And I am not going to pretend that there is not some trade-offs, because there are. I'm going to walk you through what those actual trade-offs look like. And that's because most of the content you'll find on this is either cheerleading or doom. And you're smart enough to know that neither one of those are actually useful. So let's do the actual math.
I'm actually really good at math. You're kind of bad at math.
Here's what we're actually going to cover. First, the number that starts the entire conversation, and no, it's probably not what you think. Secondly, and what I think's most important, is the lifestyle comparison. I'm going to actually give you the honest version, and yes, some of this may make you stay right there in Sacramento. And third, who this move actually makes sense for, because it's not for everybody. And knowing which category you're actually in will save you both a lot of time and money. And finally, if you're still with me at the end, I'm going to show you the one comparison that most people get completely wrong. And the last one is the most important. We'll get there. Okay, let's get started with the one conversation that starts this whole thing off. And that's those California state income taxes. And I know some of you are already thinking, Chris, I know all about the tax thing. But that's my point. You know about it. But have you actually sat down to understand what it is costing you personally? Let me make it real. A California household income of $300,000 has an estimated state income tax of $30,000 to $35,000 a year. Nevada state income tax is zero. That's not a rounding problem. That's actually a mortgage payment every single month. All for the privilege to say you live in California. Now, I want to be fair here. California does provide some things with that money, some of which people actually find value in. And there's some other things that are very hard to explain. And some you'll receive approximately never. No longer how long you live there. And when we get to the bottom line, math is math. And here's some things I've noticed after years of doing this. Once people actually see all of these numbers clearly for their particular situation, they stop asking if they should move. And they start asking a different question. What could I do with that $30,000 of annual savings? That's the exact question that starts to bring a lot of people to my calendar. Usually right after they've talked to their accountant, or right after they've looked at their April tax return just a little too long. It's usually one of those two. And at a $400,000 household income, that number actually grows to $40,000 to $45,000. At a $500,000 worth of household income, that grows upwards of $50,000. That's no longer tax planning, that's now life decision making. And just so we're being thorough, no state income tax is not the only number in that equation. Nevada also has no estate taxes. And for people doing real estate, business, or investing, that really matters. But I don't want to turn this into a tax seminar. You have accountants for that. My job simply in this video is to show you what an actual move looks like on the ground. And even though the tax math is real, here's what I haven't told you yet. The people who move here for tax purposes usually get surprised by something entirely different. And it's not what you would expect, but we'll get to that. First though, let's talk about what your weekend would look like in your actual ideal location. And with that, we'll start with lifestyle. And I want to be very clear. Nobody actually moves somewhere just because of taxes. They do it because their life as a whole gets better. So let's walk through what actually changes. And with that, we're going to start with the Sacramento lifestyle, the honest version. You've got a real city, real restaurants, and real culture. You're only 90 minutes from San Francisco and 2 hours from Lake Tahoe on a good traffic day. On a bad traffic day, well, you might get there by Christmas. So pack snacks, patience, and a really good podcast. You also have a great airport, great food scene, and great hospitals. The cost of living is also significantly better than the Bay Area while all still being in California. But it also comes with that California price tax along with those California taxes. But let's also talk about the Reno lifestyle, again, the honest version. Reno is not Sacramento. It's smaller, and the food scene's smaller. The skyline is also smaller. If you need Michelin stars and rooftop bars every Saturday night, you're likely to miss Sacramento. And I'm going to be completely upfront about that. But here's what Reno has that Sacramento does not. Tahoe is only 30 minutes away. It's not 2 hours away if I leave town before 7 a.m. It's just 30 minutes. We have skiing in winter, paddleboarding in summer, and hiking that does not require planning a road trip. Now, for a few honest trade-offs, starting with the wind. And yes, I know I poke fun of this a lot in our videos, but it's a very real thing at certain parts of town. Reno sits in a geographical corridor that does create real wind. It comes with real personality, and by personality, I mean it has opinions about your backyard. On certain days, your patio furniture is no longer your patio furniture, it actually belongs to your neighbor. Think of it as involuntary sharing. You might as well go ahead and accept that and accept it early. Then there's wildfire smoke, and some years are not a problem, other years it is. Some summers will have you checking the AQI or the air quality index before going outside. It's gotten better, but it's still real, so we're not going to pretend that it's not a thing. And cars, well, in Sacramento you have the bus, you have Uber, and you can get around basically without a car. In Reno, your car is not just a convenience. Your car is actually infrastructure. Your car is also your grocery store, your commute, and your errand runner, and occasionally a sense of identity, so plan accordingly. On a positive side, parking in Reno is so plentiful that it's almost suspicious. So if you've spent any time in California, free parking should feel illegal. It'll have you thinking there must be a fine coming, but there isn't. Now look, lifestyle is the big picture, but there are a few things that nobody talks about when comparing Sacramento to Reno. It's the practical stuff. It's the stuff that will affect your life right after you move here. I have 3 of them that we'll talk about today. One involves your vehicle registration, which has surprised more than a few Californians. Some in a good way and some not so in a good way. So let's dive into it. Okay, let me give you the stuff that doesn't make the highlight reel. Here's a couple of things that will actually affect your life within the first 30 days of moving here. This is the stuff you're going to figure out by moving here or by watching this video, your choice. So let's touch on vehicle registrations again and why it surprises Californians. And that's because this is one of the first things you will deal with when registering your vehicle. We have vehicle inspections, which is pretty much like a VIN inspection, nothing more. You pull in, they look at your VIN, and they look at your paperwork and compare that everything's the same, and you're moving on. There's no mechanical inspection, no emissions drama, no one crawling under your car looking for problems. If you've been through a California smog check recently, this will likely feel like you're going from the DMV to a drive-thru, in a very good way. Now, here's the part that catches most people off guard, and it has to do with the cost. Nevada registration includes something called the governmental service tax, which is basically based on the value of your vehicle. So if you've moved here with a new car, say a $60,000 SUV, your first year registration could end up being $900 to $1,200. A lot of Californians come and they make comments about they assume Nevada registration would be cheaper because there's no income tax. And honestly, sometimes it is and sometimes it's not. The good news is it will constantly decrease with the depreciation of your vehicle year after year. The first year with a new car is just the part that gets people. Don't be that person who hands over the paperwork and then visibly grays out when you see the total. You're going to know this in advance, budget for it, and move on. Another part is whether groceries are cheaper in Reno than Sacramento. The honest answer is they're pretty similar. Milk, eggs, meat, produce, you're gonna be very similar in the ballpark. You are not moving to a discount market. Where people actually save are at restaurants and everyday spending. But here's the one thing that people don't expect, and that is the grocery lanes just got a lot easier. Parking, shorter lines, and no one fighting you for the last cart. It's the small things until you've lived here for about 6 months and then realized you stopped dreading the Tuesday afternoon grocery run. And that's just one of the quality of life shifts that take place that will never show up on the spreadsheet. Another question that's common when coming from California is what are the winters really like? So let me give it to you straight. Reno sits at about 4,500 feet in elevation. So yes, we do get snow. But here's the detail that most people miss. Reno is a high desert city and not a mountain community. Most storms only drop a few inches at a time, and then the sun comes out the very same day, and it dries off the roads usually within 1 to 2 days, and everything's back to normal. This is not Vermont or Michigan. We are not going to snovel show for 3 months. Another thing that we get that I actually personally appreciate that surprises people is the dramatic shifts in temperatures. You could have a beautiful 45-degree sunny day and wake up the very next morning with 20 degrees. It is not uncommon to see a 20 to 30 degree shift from mid-afternoon to the next morning. So layer up and don't put that heavy coat away just yet. December will not be your friend if you do. But in the summer, when we hit 95 degrees, it can commonly drop back down into the 60s at night, and that makes the summer so nice here. And one more thing that you'll need to know about winters here in northern Nevada before you get here. Nevada has traction laws. When winter storms hit the Sierra, the Nevada Department of Transportation can require traction devices on certain roads. What that means is chains, all-wheel drive cars, or tires with 3 peak mountain snowflake ratings. They little mountain symbols on the sidewalls, which means the tire's rated for severe snow or ice conditions. Most Reno locals run these winter tires all winter and then go back to their normal tires during spring, summer, and fall. They perform better in winter because they stay more pliable in sub 40-degree temps, which we do get, especially if you're making trips back and forth to California over the pass. Between Reno and Truckee, it's usually about 15 to 20 degrees cooler there, so in the winter that can really make a big difference. So these tires make them less stressful to drive on, and they keep you legal when conditions get ugly on the pass. Personally, I do not put chains on my vehicles. I buy really good tires, and they really do make a difference. So make sure you get them on in early November December because by Thanksgiving, the lines start to get a lot longer. And you never want to wait for the first storm to hit the northern Nevada because the lines can become 2-week wait just to get into your favorite tire shop. So don't be that person. And I say that with genuine compassion. And the last winter thing that nobody mentions but should is hydration. We have very low humidity and Reno is extremely dry. The altitude will only take you about a couple of weeks to adjust to. Most Sacramento families say the hardest part of the first winter is not the cold. It's the headaches and the fatigue, but it's generally related directly to not drinking enough water. So make sure you drink more water than you think you actually need. Your body will adjust and figure it all out within the first couple of weeks. Consider this your formal warning. You're welcome. So that's the practical side of living here. Now here's the part that most people completely skip over when they're comparing the two cities. And that is forgetting to compare yourself in those two cities. Meaning who this actually makes sense to make the move. Because it's not for everyone. And I'm going to tell you exactly who it's for and who it's not. Stay with me. Okay, let's talk about fit because this is one of those conversations I've had a lot. And I can tell pretty quickly who's actually going to make the move and who's not generally within the first 15 minutes of our call. Here's who this move is not for. If your income is tied to a particular location in Sacramento, a particular employer, a specific office that you have to be in 5 days a week, then the math doesn't work for you yet. It might work later, but right now it does not. And if you're thinking, I'll just tell my boss I'm working from Reno and hope he doesn't notice, then I'm not your attorney, but I can tell you that plan has a definite track record. And if your entire social world is in Sacramento and that matters to you more than anything, then this too is not the right move. The people who actually move here and stay moved here are the ones where their identity is not attached to a zip code. And if your primary motivation is all about cheaper housing, then I'm going to personally push back on that one also. Because housing in Reno is not cheap anymore. Cheaper and better than California? Yes. But don't move here thinking that you're going to get prices from 2015 in the year 2026. Reno's median sales price is about $630,000 as compared to Sacramento's at $575,000. We're a little higher until you consider that tax cap. Then it's not even close. But let me tell you who this is for. Business owners, consultants, tech professionals, medical professionals, and people with portable incomes. These are the people who have done well enough to start noticing just how much they earn that never makes it to them. It's also for those people who want more outdoor access in their everyday life and not just on a vacation. And people who are also mature enough to realize that a smaller city doesn't mean a downgrade. It just means different. The people who are happiest here, and I mean genuinely happy and not just financially satisfied, are the ones who came here for strategy and stayed because of lifestyle. And hey, if you ever want to go see those outlaws, it's just a short drive down the road. So that's the who. Now, here's the thing I promised you at the beginning, and this is the mistake that most people make when comparing Sacramento to Reno. And honestly, this one's going to reframe everything that we've talked about so far. And that is the mistake of when people are comparing to what they will give up in Sacramento versus what they will get in Reno. And then forget to compare what staying in Sacramento's actually going to cost them. That's not the same calculation, and it produces a very different answer. So let me put it a little different way. If I told you that for every year that you stay in Sacramento, you would be writing a check for $30,000 to $50,000 and then handing it to the state, and then getting roughly nothing back from the state of California that you could not get from Nevada, would you consider that a sound financial decision? Probably not. But that is the default. That's what would happen when you don't run the numbers. So the real question is not can you afford to move, but can you afford not to move? And I'm not saying that the answer is always yes. For some people, it genuinely isn't. But for more people than you actually would think, they're paying a premium to stay somewhere where they did not consciously choose to. They just haven't done the math yet, or they did the math, but they did it in round numbers, probably at midnight and after a stressful week. Then they just closed the laptop and went to bed, which I have actually had this conversation hundreds of times. This is where most people live, right up to the point that they don't anymore. And here's the other piece that most people don't calculate into it, and that is proximity. Sacramento to Reno is only about 2 hours on I-80, at least on a normal day when it's not a ski weekend. On a ski weekend in February, plan for 4 hours, a thermos, and lowered expectations. This means your family is only 2 hours away and not a flight. So when it comes to your accountant, that doctor, and your dentist, you can keep them all. So your California clients will not just disappear. I am actually a broker in both Nevada and California, and I have been traveling back and forth for over a decade. It's a beautiful drive and it's relaxing. So you're not abandoning your old life, you're simply changing addresses. Both my wife and I go back and forth regularly as we still have family there, and it's an easy drive. So back to where we started. You're doing well, and you're not desperate, and you're still watching this video about Reno, Nevada, which means this video was either genuinely helpful or you just hate commercials. Either way, I really appreciate you sticking around. It also probably means that your spreadsheet's telling you something that your emotions simply have not caught up to yet. That's not a bad thing, it's just information. My job, and I've been doing this for 21 years, is to help you figure out what to do with it. My wife Cindy brings 32 years to this industry, and I have over 21. Between the two of us, we have seen just about every version of this move, and we can tell you honestly, for your personal situation, whether Reno actually makes sense or whether it doesn't. No pressure, no pitch, just a real conversation with real numbers based on your personal situation. There's a link in the description below for a call, and it's free. And I promise it won't be a sales call. It's a real conversation. And if you're not ready for that just yet, go ahead and hit subscribe anyways. I got more of these coming. And if you have a question about moving from Sacramento to Reno, drop those in the comments. I actually read those personally and will reply to you. And if you're still wondering whether your spreadsheet is telling you something worthy of listening to, it probably is. I'll see you on the next one.